Morning. Yes. Good morning.
Fine, thank you.
Great, great.
Good morning.
Morning. So we'll just give the others a few minutes and then we'll start promptly at 9:30, okay?
No problem.
Okay, excellent. Did any of us have the opportunity to read the newspaper this week?
Yes, Cassandra did.
Okay, excellent, Cassandra. So I hope you're ready to share with us what you would have read.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, so just in a few moments and then we'll start.
Miss Bullet?
Get back. New McMahon's to take on anyone, boss man.
Okay.
Miss Bullet, are you there? Yes.
Hi, yes, go ahead. I'm here.
This is Erica. I sent my paper to Miss Bullard Dean.
Yes, I received it though. She sent it to me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
no-
I only was able to glance the headline with the Prime Minister, and the headline, I can't even remember what it said. It was talking about Bitcoin. But I did do a seminar. I did do a webinar on Bitcoin this week.
Okay, great. So do you have some information to share with us whilst we wait? You want to take the next 5 minutes to go over so you can share what the article said about Bitcoin?
Well, I didn't read the article. I did a webinar, but but I can share what the little bit that I did learn about.
Okay.
Okay, so
Wait, let's give everybody, because there's about 7 more persons, so let's give them an opportunity and we'll start at 9:30.
okay, no problem.
Right. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Amanda Gorman, it is such a pleasure. First of all, how do you feel?
I feel just so overjoyed and so grateful and so humbled. You know,
Hi, Stephanie. Do you want to use your mic? We're getting some feedback from you.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Okay, good morning, all. Thank you for joining us today. I trust that everybody had a productive week. I've already gotten some awesome news. Both Cassandra and Erica want to share with us. Erica attended a seminar, and Cassandra read an article in the newspaper, so that's exciting. Also, thank you to the persons that sent in their homework. On the homework sheet, I made an error. The dates reflect the dates of the class rather than the actual Friday date. So I hope nobody was confused. Thank you, Cassandra, for pointing that out to me. So each essay is due on the Friday. So if the class is on the 23rd, then that would be the 22nd. So it would have been due last night. Um, and then the other dates are the 29th, the 5th, the 12th. Did that confuse anybody else?
Yes. You can
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Morning.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. What I'll do is because I said maybe since the class is today, that the 23rd was the right date. So I was saying today, but I'll send it.
Okay, so that's
And
fine.
I
So
had another
everybody
query.
who had planned to
Was
send it to do question one, I'll accept it today and
no,
no
no,
point
that's
taken
that's
off.
my next point. If it wasn't question one, then you go with the date that you have down.
So you go with January 29th for question two,
Okay.
February 5th for question three, and February 12th for
Okay, I just
question four.
wanted to be clear on that because
Yeah, so it's the Friday. It's the Friday before the class.
Okay then. All
Okay.
right. Okay.
So if anybody else wants to, was planning on submitting question one today, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I did it, but that is
Okay.
one I want to turn in.
That is sorry.
I didn't want to do question one for turning in. So that
Oh,
means
okay. Just for practice. Okay, that's
right.
fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Right. Okay, good. Anybody else other than Cassandra and Erica who wants to share with us today, or just Cassandra and Erica?
Hi,
Okay.
morning. I did watch Dirty Money,
Okay.
first
Excellent.
episode, and it was I remember the story with Wells Fargo, but it was very interesting to see just how deep it went. And it was just shocking.
Right, right. And that's why I encouraged everybody to watch
Falsifying
it.
accounts and opening different accounts for persons without them even knowing, false social security numbers and phony email addresses and just to meet quotas, and it was
Correct.
it was rough.
Yes. And so again, all of this gives you awareness. And then
Yeah,
you go back in the institutions and you do some checks and balances to make sure that, there are no gaps where somebody could, take advantage of you in this way, because out of that, 4,300 persons got let go or were involved, and not that they were the mastermind or even, participating in it. They were just used their
right.
passwords and stuff because of, sometimes we know we don't supposed to share passwords, but sometimes we do, or we let persons come to our system and, type in information or use it, or, so yeah, you want to, sometimes you're in dual custody and you hand your keys over, so this
Yeah,
is why I want y'all to watch, so y'all are fully aware, the awareness is out there of what has actually happened already. Okay, so very good, Renita.
But
Okay, so
for me,
Yeah.
I think the most astonishing thing was about the movie, when the father gave the daughter the bearer shares to the company. And I think that's the same movie, right? Dirty Money, or that's a laundromat.
no, Dirty Money is a series of
Oh, I
various
didn't watch
stories.
that. I watched the laundromat. That's what I watched.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And in the laundromat where the father gave the daughter the bearer shares. And I thought once she had the bearer shares, she owned the company, but that's the thought process on that. but not knowing that the trust, it could be a trust that actually owns the bearer shares. So when she went to claim on the bearer shares, they told her that they were worth nothing. So for me, that I found that very amazing. That's a point that I wasn't aware of.
Okay, and what's the name of that one? The laundromat? I'll put that on
Yeah.
my list.
Yeah, the laundromat. It's
Oh,
very
okay.
good.
Okay, thank you. And you want to tell us about the seminar you attended?
So what had happened was I saw the headline electronically, and I was doing another assignment for another course. And so I had intentions of going back and reading it. However, I realized when I got an alert that I had a seminar, a webinar on Bitcoins. And what I did learn, because I'm one of those persons who are trying to become more educated on electronic currency. And what I learned about Bitcoin is just one form of cryptocurrency, and that Bitcoin is worth whatever the individuals who are in transaction together agree upon. And that the Bitcoin, how it was explained was that if you and I and two other people, we can be in this little system together, right? And if you and I, if all persons in the system put in $100, let's just say, or four of us put in $100, and if we go out somewhere and have dinner or whatever, we use the monies within that system. And if I go over my budget of $100 within that system of those four persons, and I borrow $20 from Karen, let's say Karen, in the system, and I would have to sign, everybody signs an electronic signature and to say that, okay, I owe Karen $20, and everybody has to, the person who I'm borrowing from has to agree to it and sign and consent to the transaction. And so when I go back and every transaction is listed in that system, and not only listed, it's monitored. And all of this is stored on what is called a blockchain. And with cryptocurrency, you can basically, you don't need a bank, a financial institution to do these different transactions. And what I think I found so interesting about the whole phenomenon of cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, is that if this thing continues to progress and this system continues to grow bigger and bigger, this could be the downfall of financial institutions, because if everybody gets into cryptocurrency and doing their own transactions, this is going to make the banking system elite and basically non-existent. Our grandchildren will be making their own transaction. There'll be no need for traditional banks. And so I was wondering, Miss Bullitt, if you can speak to this. Where would that leave the banking institution?
Okay. So yeah, let me just give you a little bit of background that I know. It's not only the banking institution. In one of my other classes, the question is, what is the next step for humans? And that's how far it's going to evolve, because at some point, everything is going to be automated or run by a robot. Will be able to do, most of the things that we do and do it more efficiently. And so that's the big question. And what I get in return is that the human beings will have to service the robots, or do engineering to support the robots, and then there will be some essential service that requires and I guess this pandemic is a good example of it. We see where the police, the hospitals, I guess farming and fishing is still essential. So those areas may remain essential. I don't know, but in terms of Bitcoin was created in, I think, 1981 by a 21-year-old boy who just sat in his room for hours, one of those very techie guys. And his purpose was for it to not be regulated, because of course we see, if we know history of the stock market, before it was taxed, persons made loads of money. After it was taxed, you have to give the government 30%. And most investors don't want to give the government any money because they feel that the government does not put the money back into the country, into infrastructure, into roads and schools and what have you. And so that's why they don't really support taxes. And so Bitcoin was created to, avoid taxes. Now, um, when you create something that's not regulated, then that means the owners or the principals who runs these exchanges that cross where the Bitcoin crosses. I mean, there's really no, they self-regulate themselves. And if you watch when Mark Zuckerberg was before the US Congress about privacy and data issues, what he did was he sat there and he just apologized for everything he did. And they asking for information. They, insisted that he put some policy and procedure in place, but there's no like full framework for him to follow because he's self-regulated. And so what governments around the world are trying to do is now regulate Bitcoin to make it safer to be able to enforce the policies and procedures and put them in place. But again, once that happens, regulation is expensive, and then that'll be taxes where. Sorry?
I said I would love to see them do that.
Yeah, but that's what they're doing. So most countries already have the infrastructure in place. Remember, I tell you, we are a little bit behind. When we want to see what's happening in the world, we go to Luxembourg and Cayman. They're normally at the forefront, so they already have the infrastructure in place. Now, the Bahamas has a working group trying to, I guess what they would do is either copy the Netherlands, Luxembourg, or Cayman, and they will look at their policy and procedure and then leverage off of that, and try and implement it here. What they have done so far is a digital currency, and that's called the DARE bill, where I think it's a sand dollar. They had launched it in Exome and it was successful. And now Abaco, and they rolled it out in I don't know if did they roll it out? Anybody know?
Yeah, they rolled it out in Abaco. Yeah.
Right. And so then on top of that, the Securities Commission has a fintech hub where most banks have, they're getting licenses to operate just virtually. So that's the new thing. And so everybody needs to learn about this virtual fintech hub, and so we can, stay current and relevant.
Right.
So it's in many countries already, and some parts, like I've always worked in offshore, and we have never had like face-to-face contact. And so for the most part, we did everything virtually already. And so we already had policy procedure in place. And so it's just going to be more widespread. So if you've never been exposed to it, by all means, very good, Erica, read up on it, find out about it. It's here. I can't even say it's coming. It's here.
It's here.
And it's a new way of the world. And there are even conspiracy theories out there that this is why they created this pandemic, to push, persons to, get familiar with the virtual world and stop all this human contact. They're saying that it's in support of this new tech world, and what's the guy's name who the billionaire who owns Apple? What's his name?
Bill Gates?
Yeah, Bill Gates. Yeah. So they're saying that Bill Gates is behind all of this. What have you? Yeah. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories, but even if the pandemic didn't happen or is in no way related to it, it's the new way of the world. So when you see these new payment systems and these apps and our sand dollar, please go out and learn about it.
Yes. The question that I had about the sand dollar is that, because I did some research on that as well after listening to the webinar. And one thing that I learned, I understand the sand dollar and how it works in the tier 1 and tier 2. But what I I was searching for was to see if funds can be sent outside of the Bahamas to your app, to your Sand Dollar account, and I was not
can-
happy about
I
that.
think
I
they
can
said
answer
not
that.
as
I
yet.
can answer
It
that.
doesn't, you can't.
Excuse me,
Uh,
Ms. Bullis.
Wait, 1 second. So Renee, sorry, you said you can answer?
Yeah, because right now it's in a rollout phase. So
Mhm.
they're getting the buy-in from more persons. I work at the central bank, and we've been using it from last year to purchase funds from the CAF. So you can have them sign up through the local agents who they have, like Omni, etc. And it's allowing you to then transfer funds. So for us, we utilize it to transfer funds within our group, within the bank, as well as, like I say, for the basics of by purchasing lunch from the cafeteria. So we would go into the CAF, since we've already signed up, we would go into the CAF with our phones, scan the
Excuse me, Ms. Bullis,
barcode.
I have a situation.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sorry.
This
Go
is
ahead.
Cassandra. My
Okay.
power went out and I don't have enough data on my phone, so it's gonna shut off soon.
Okay.
Would that
It's
be an
being,
issue?
yeah, it's being recorded, Cassandra, so you could perhaps just listen afterwards if your power doesn't come back on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you too. And you, of course, do you have anybody's number if you want some extra notes or anybody's email address in the class?
I mean, I can get the email addresses from the mass email that was sent out, if anyone doesn't mind me contacting them.
Okay, if not, if you have any issues, just let me know, but it's being recorded.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Renee, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. So for now, except for the pilot islands that they have launched it in, we're still engaging the different players. So right now, if you have it on if you apply and you download, you could probably download a small amount, like $20 or $30, if you want to test and see how it works. But basically, from the merchants buying into utilizing it, then you would be able to go to the various shops. But as of now, it's not. I guess that's part of the future framework for you to be able to do such things outside of the Bahamas. But right now, it's being rolled out for local use.
Okay, Renee, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that information, but I also did see that you can do peer-to-peer transfer.
Pardon me?
I also saw that you can do peer-to-peer transfer with the Sand Dollar account.
Right, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you're in a club and you like a social club, maybe like a Toastmasters or something. And right now it's a challenge going around to get funds from people, etc. And you get your members to sign up for Sand Dollar. They would have it on their phone. So when it's time to pay dues, then they can send the money to the treasurer via the Sand Dollar.
Excellent.
Okay, and that's excellent. And I encourage each of you to go out and try it because again, it's here. It's the new way of the future, and before it just comes up on us and we've been not aware of what it is and how it works. And like I said, read the policy and procedure and get familiarize yourself with it. In these two chapters, we're going to talk about international standards and the legal framework. And let me just tell you how it affects the economy. The net effect is that the Bahamas, we're in the midst of updating our risk assessment. And of course, we don't want to be seen as high risk. Right now, we're considered medium risk. And one of the things that causes you to become high risk is that your economy is too cash intensive. And so with the licensing of the number houses and all these money services businesses, we are considered cash intensive. And so this Sand Dollar initiative will eliminate the need for cash. And the governor has worked on several initiatives to ensure that we don't we're not seeing when we finish our update on the risk assessment, we're not seeing, we don't go over the high because of course, our lending rates will be higher. We'll be subject to enhanced due diligence. The risk will increase. And so we don't want to be seen as a high risk country. And so therefore this initiative helps. And so the less cash intensive we are, the lower our risk will be, or that will contribute, because there are like 14 categories for which the Basel Committee, risk rates the country. And so one of those categories, if we, decrease the amount of cash we have within the economy, it will help us to maintain our medium status. So that's very important for the Bahamas. So the quicker we adapt to this, and implement it, the more people that use it, the less cash intensive we are. And the governor strategically placed it through the money services business, like the cash and go and Western unions and what have you, with hopes, because that's where the bulk of the cash is every day. Because at one point, one of his initiatives was to put a moratorium on giving out licenses for these money services businesses. And as you can see, they popped up just like the number houses on every corner. Yeah. And so before we knew it, there were branches and branches and branches and all that could have possibly taken us over to the higher risk end, which we do know will not be beneficial for the country. And so, like I said, learn, find out what it is, download the app. Like Renee suggested, get about $20, $30 and practice using it. And, if it's widespread, all of that will, when we are checked or when it's verified by the committee that we are indeed a less cash intensive economy, it will actually be true. Because right now, all of this is just in the infrastructure stage and the rollout stage. And, they may still say, well, it's not effective or it's not fully implemented, and only two islands are using it. So that would be your contribution to your economy by adapting to, or getting familiar and using the sand dollar. Okay, so please don't be afraid of it. It's the new way. It's the new way, and it'll help the economy. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you so much, Renee and Erica. I think Cassandra would have left. Anybody else? Anybody else reading the newspaper? Any more? Anybody else wants to share?
Can I say one more thing, please?
Yes, go ahead, Erica, and then we'll have Patricia right afterwards.
Guys, I'm one of those persons who despise social media. And last week, Ms. Bullock suggested that we sign up to those various agencies. And let me tell you, I am happy that she said that, because now I'm not brave enough yet to go on Facebook because I just am not. But I am on Twitter, and oh my God, when I signed up, I couldn't put the phone down. I honestly couldn't put the phone down, because every time I'm getting some information on the FAT 40 recommendations, or getting something from the central bank, it's very informative, I'm telling you. And this class, along with the stuff that you're going to read and be exposed to, is going to even broaden your minds, and it's going to make you even more interested and excited about the field, because you're going to be able to make those connections. So again, please go ahead and sign up for some of those sites.
Right, and thank you, Erica, because I also despise social media, but I found it very beneficial. And so we don't have to use it, to put out what we eat or what we wear or we went on vacation. We can use it and make it beneficial to us. And like I said, these things, what I found with Facebook is once you would have followed the various, regulatory bodies and international regulators, and the news in the countries that you do business with, that just pops up, and you don't have to read every article, but at least you are aware. And if you get into conversation, or if people say, this change was made or this happened or this new implementation like sand dollar. You click on that, it goes. You have that in like you would have seen it before and you would be familiar with the verbiage, with the acronyms, what have you, and you can speak knowledgeably to it. So it has also been beneficial to me. So very good, and I'm happy that you found it useful.
Yes, and then just one last thing, and then I'm gonna shut up. Also,
Erica, you getting your full 10,
Yes.
your full 10%,
no, because
your full 10% today.
I am
That's
so
excellent.
serious. I am so excited about all of this because now last night I also signed up for the World Economic Forum because they're rolling out this whole program. Actually, they published their program in December of all these new initiatives that they want to do surrounding the pandemic to increase the economy, to increase jobs and stuff like that. So I advise you all to go on that. It's WE Forum, forum.org. Okay, and sign up and listen to some of the lectures that are going to be talked about and the things that you should expect to see in 2021.
Okay,
That's
great.
it.
Hi,
Awesome.
Erica.
Thank you.
Yes,
Hi, can you type that in the chat, please?
sure.
Thank you. Ms. Bullitt, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I signed up for the, well, actually, I submitted my email to apply for BACO, I think, as you instructed. How long does the process take to accept?
Okay, so they have an application form and then they want your CV and there are other deliverables.
I did that.
You did that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so normally it shouldn't take more than a week or two. I know their registration is ongoing now for 2021. So
Okay.
it may be a bit of a backlog because all the previous members have to be re-registered. But if you don't hear from them within a week, Makita Cooper, she is the secretary and she's very responsive. So I can share her email address with you if you don't get that response.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, great.
Thank you very
great.
much.
You're welcome.
Also-
Patricia, sorry, you had your hand up earlier, Patricia? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Ms. Bullitt.
Mhm.
I was wondering, after reading the papers this week, you mentioned fraud last week, and you said it's showing up more and more in our system. There was a young man with the real estate sales. I think he is currently in jail, but how is it possible that somebody's able to open his own real estate company and actually collect money from unsuspecting Bahamians and sell land and houses that he never owned? I mean, does this qualify as a fraud, or, I mean, how would this even relate with compliance? That's my question.
Yeah, well, again, or that fraud now should be once money is involved, you should not only be charged with fraud, you should be charged with money laundering as well. And so anything to do with finances really falls there. There are 21 predicate crimes that fall under money laundering, and fraud is one of them. Okay, remember when we looked at which page was it? Let me just go back. Page 9, the underlying predicate crimes for the purpose of money laundering. Fraud was the first one on the list, then theft, then counterfeiting. And so in the past, what persons were charged with was just fraud, where they would have spent 2 to 4 years in jail. Now the money laundering charge is way more hefty, so you will be charged with fraud, spend your 2 to 4 years, and then you will also have a charge of money laundering, which should be like take 5 to 10 years on top of that.
Okay, perfect.
Right. So that's how it works. But let me just give you an experience that I had about, what should I say, 15 years ago in my home now where I live. I worked at Fingo Robinson Road. A customer, a proposed real estate agent came in, opened an account, did business with us for about 2 the 3 years. And then he said, you know, if anybody wants to purchase property, I have these properties for sale and what have you. And he bought in a list of properties throughout Seabreeze. And I said I wanted to purchase one, and a few, about 4 of us said we want to purchase from him. And so he bought us a fake deed, a fake copy of the plot of land and what have you. And then, of course, you know, he asked for a down payment. Now, luckily for me, my father said, you are going to give your down payment to your lawyer. You are not going to give your down payment to him. And I said, okay. And my co-worker, I just said that my father told me to give it to my lawyer and not to the gentleman. And so the other colleague said, but I don't have a lawyer. So I said, but you're going to have to find one to do legal work, and the bank has a list of approved lawyers and what have you. And so she said, okay, fine, but I don't want to lose this piece of property and I'm ready to move on. And I said, well, I'm not going to lose it either, because I said, you just have the option. And so we went, she would have given her monies directly to him, her 5% down. The other persons and myself gave it to our lawyers. And so we went into the, you know, the bank, got our loans approved to purchase the property. When the legal work came back, that's when we found out that he was not the owner of the property. And so I was protected, and the 2 other persons were protected. But she tell me if she got her money back from him.
No.
That was just a complete loss. And from then, we always encourage that when you complete a sales agreement and you put your 5% down, you either give it to the bank to hold it, or you give it to your lawyer. Do not give it to an individual or even a company, you know, and that just protects you. Yeah, so I had that same experience, because there are people out there who are, you know, again, back then it wasn't as heavily regulated. In fact, right now, just in 2019, real estate agents did not, if they didn't have they didn't have to be regulated by this compliance commission. That just came out in 2019. They call it non-designated or designated non-financial institutions, and that's the real estates, the accountants, and the law firms, and that's if they have a corporate service provider's arm. And so anybody can sell property, and so out of that fraud that happened, you know, the association came on and said, you know, let us give you some tips. Make sure that you see the person's license, because you could at least go to the association or the licensing authority and say, this person stole my money, and they would ban them from, you know, ever, you know, or fine them, or they, you know, force their hand to try and get your money back. And because they act as the regulator. But if it's just a me and you situation where you say, Miss Bullitt, she have a piece of property and I want to sell it, and you purchase it, that's a risk involved. If you give me your money and you change your mind, or the property doesn't belong with me, I can run off with your money.
Oh, wow.
Right. So you want to ensure that if you're buying it from an individual, which is normal, you give your money to your lawyer, or you ask the bank to hold the money in escrow or something and tell the deal is finished. But do not give your money to an individual proposing to be the owner of a property, because not until that legal work is completed, you even know that, you know, whether or not that person owns that property. Another situation too was, I don't know if you all remember when Frankie Wilson and Arawak Holmes had knocked down the church somewhere off of Nassau Village. Yeah, a few persons, you know, had that problem as well. Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of issues, and so the association is going to, you know, try and regulate it and not it as much. But if, like I said, if you give your money to somebody, they can just run off with it. Okay, so try to protect yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Bullitt.
Yes, okay, great. Okay, awesome. I am so enthused and I am so happy, because sometimes, this could get a little boring and people fall asleep halfway through and they say, oh, Miss Bullet, I just couldn't take it anymore. But it can be what you make it, and we can make it exciting, we can make it interesting, and we can learn, and there's different ways to learn. We don't just have to sit to the book and, read, but if we talk about our experiences and what's happening in our economy, all of that will add a little spice to it. So I'm very encouraged. So very good class. Okay, so good. So today we're going to talk about chapter 3 and chapter 4 of the book International Standards in the Bahamian legal system. And so, of course, chapter 3, if you would have had the opportunity to peruse it, speaks about the Financial Action Task Force. And we spoke briefly about it last week. I don't know if we all remember who they are, what they do. The book says they were established in 1989. It's an intergovernmental body whose purpose is to establish international standards and develop and promote policies, both national and internationally, to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. The FATF Secretariat is housed in the offices of the Organization of the Economic Development Organization for Economic Development, the OECD. They meet several times a year. There are various different bodies because, again, they regulate the entire world. So for Asia, there's an Asian group. For Europe, there's a European group. And of course, there's one for the Caribbean, and Bahamas falls under the Caribbean. Sorry?
I said CFATF.
Yeah, the CFATF. So of course, that's going to be a question on the exam. You definitely have to know that. And the very familiar question on the exam, the essay question, is ask you, what are the FATF tasks? What do they do? And the task includes setting international standards, monitoring compliance with the standards, promoting worldwide application of the FATF standards through FATF-style regional bodies. And again, that's the body from Asia, that's the CFATF, the European body, studies methods and trends of money laundering and terrorist financing. So a lot of times when persons answer these questions, they miss the important parts. So we don't want a bunch of fluff, and we don't want to overlook what the exact task is. So when they ask you specifically what the tasks are, the expectation is that you quote that they set international standards, they monitor the compliance, they promote worldwide cooperation. Okay, so in 1990, the FATF developed 40 recommendations, and we looked briefly at them last week. Did anybody go back and look over them, or no? After Ms. Bullitt was finished, that was it. Anybody look?
Briefly.
Briefly.
Okay, briefly.
We
Okay,
looked
so
over 'em.
we want to be completely familiar with these because we're going to hear this through the entire course.
Yeah, I know
40
there's
recommendations.
nine bodies within, you talk about the five-star regional bodies, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there are nine.
Right. And
But do we have to memorize? I know, well, I tried to memorize the acronyms, but.
No, you don't. The
Okay.
only one you really need to familiarize yourself with is the CFATF, because of course, then that's who we fall under.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of the questions will be based on who the CFATF is and what they do. Okay. Yeah. So the 40 recommendations, and what I want to say about these 40 recommendations is when you write papers, and just as you move on, you would have more and more essays to write or papers to submit. You want to ensure that you have the correct version, because if you go into Google, you Google the FATF recommendations, sometimes the 212 version will come up. So you want to ensure the first check that you're making, not only with this policy, with all policies is that it's the correct, the latest version, which is the Joan version. And then when you quote each for the recommendation, when you quote each recommendation, the recommendations have an old number and a new number. You want to ensure that whatever you're referring to, you look at the name to make sure that this is still recommendation one, because there's a lot of information out there on the internet. And so you always want to check your dates and make sure that you have the correct information. Because I had persons who, because I teach all the way up to the ICA, and I had persons, they have to write a 2,500 to 3,500 word essay. And they would have written it on a 212 version and quoted the wrong numbers, and it was a complete mess, and they had to do the entire thing over. So please check your dates. Somebody saying something? No? Okay. So let's just look at some of the topics. Of course, recommendation one, and I think we'll cover that in chapter 5, talks about assessing the risk and applying a risk-based approach. And so that's what the Bahamas has to do. The last time we would have completed our risk rating was in 2015, 2016, and then I think it was approved in 2017. And so that's a bit outdated. And so if you go to the Basel Committee's website, you will see that our country rating for a very long time would not have been there. And so it's been medium since 2014. And so remember I said a few years ago, they came in and they completed the CFATF, they completed our mutual evaluation. And so out of these 40 recommendations, 22 of them were deficient. Since then, I think we would have updated, repealed, and replaced all our laws in 2018. And now we have 30 compliant, 10 largely compliant, I think one recommendation regarding sanctions. I think it's number 24 regarding, 24 is now beneficial only legal persons. So it's either 5 or, I think it's 6 targeted financial sanctions, had to be implemented. And after the laws were updated, we see a sanctions framework coming in where the regulator has a hands-on approach where each quarter they ask, I think the central bank asks annually or whenever there's an incident. So with the sanction program, the United Nations or whomever, they send out various emails and they say, this is who is on our sanction list. We want you to be aware of it. I think China just said Donald Trump. Donald Trump and some of his persons, he pardoned a few persons right after he would have left office. And so some of those persons who he would have pardoned is on China's sanction list. And so it would be very interesting to see how that works, because for the most part is what the UN says or what the US says. A lot of times when it's against the US, it's not as supported or it's not perhaps complete law. So it'll be interesting to see if the sanctions list come around and tell us to make sure not to do business with some of his cronies or his, the men that went to jail. So the 40 recommendations, and then to familiarize yourself with it, after 9/11, of course, there were 9 special recommendations added to the 40, which specifically dealt with terrorist financing and proliferation of weapons and what have you. And so you want to be sure that you're familiar with all of those, because you will have various questions regarding, customer due diligence, record keeping, politically exposed persons. Does anybody remember what I said last week? How, laws are established. We have the international standards. So it's not only the FATF. The FATF has the 40 recommendations. The Basel Committee has other recommendations. The Wolfberg group for correspondent banking, they have some principles. All of these are international standards. From international standards, then there's the country's law. So each country has to create laws or a framework, an AML framework that encompasses all of these recommendations. Then each regulator creates a guideline that tells you, hey, it's in layman's terms, because we're going to look at the laws and we're going to see where they are like 100, 200 pages and they're not in layman's terms. So of course you need a lawyer to interpret what exactly this law is saying, what exactly I must do, you know? And so after, you know, what the regulators did is they took parts of it and they said, hey, we're going to give you a guideline for you to follow. And you follow this guideline based on, you know, what services and products you offer in your institution. You tailor it to your institution. Okay. And so the book talks about, you know, the revision of the 212 recommendations. I guess, of course, they first came out in 1990, then they have subsequent updates. And then in 212, they had a major update. And then we see these ones, slight changes. And so each time they would have updated, of course, we would have also had to do updates. But again, we use the staggered approach because regulation is expensive. Implementation is expensive. Sometimes you have to put a system in place to support, you know, the sanctions tracking or the what else? The hits that you would get now, because we want to track anybody who would have committed crimes overnight and what have you. So it's very expensive. And so some institutions could not afford, you know, to make this investment to, you know, satisfy each policy or procedure or law. And so you saw a lot of banks close out. You saw a lot of banks outsource, you know, functions to various countries because it was very expensive, you know, to do business. Then we were, you know, considered a tax jurisdiction back in the day, or a tax haven, I should say. And a lot of persons came and opened an account with us, millions of dollars in offshore dollars from various countries around the world, because they simply did not want to pay taxes. And they felt that, you know, I don't need to pay taxes because the ministers are just getting rich. They're not putting infrastructure into the country. They're not opening new schools. You go to the hospitals, and the hospitals are, you wait 10 hours to be served, and it's not no proper care. The roads have potholes, and so I don't need to give my money to the government. It's cheaper for me to take my money overseas and pay a bit of fees, and rather than give the government 30%. And so for a very long time, the Bahamas and other Caribbean jurisdictions, you know, we made loads and loads of money off of offshore banking. But of course, now with all these laws and tax laws in place, that retracted the industry by 17% of GDP. Used to be 20% of GDP. It's now 3% because all of these laws were put in place. So essentially, it wiped out a lot of our banking sector, and that's why the government had to use a staggered approach. But luckily, they didn't. Like I said, they applied some pressure. What they did is back in 2000, when we put in the shell, we got blacklisted. And so we did some updates along the way. And after we would have done the updates, we, for a few years, we tried to be compliant as much as possible. I think we got blacklisted again in 2018, but it was by mistake of the one of the bodies at the FATF, where they have a technical department and then they have the department that blacklists you. And overall, for the Bahamas, both Peter Turnquest, because it's not political, Peter Turnquest and Ryan Pinder, who would have represented us with the FATF, felt that, the more regulation we implement, the more they are going to impose on us. And basically, they were trying to wipe out our banking sector because, we were the competition. If persons from Switzerland kept their money at home, then the Switzerland economy would thrive if the people in the US kept their money at home, so they basically felt that um, Switzerland and the US and all these international, the European Union was trying to wipe us out. So, they persons would repatriate their money back home. So the government felt on both sides that no matter what regulation we put in place, no matter what law we change, no matter how much we enforce it, they'll never be satisfied because they basically just want to wipe out complete financial services sector. And so there's a lot of back and forth where both sides of the government felt, it was really unfair. And so over the years, we realized that if the same persons that sit on the FATF, because again, this is in Paris, that board, which are like the prime ministers and attorney generals from around the world, are the same persons who make up the European Union, are the same persons who would continuously blacklist us. And so they felt that there was no way around it. And so basically, I think the Bahamas would have come to the conclusion that, hey, we need a seat at the table because we need somebody there to speak on behalf of the Bahamas. When somebody there is there from Switzerland and somebody there is from England and somebody is there from France, of course, they are going to be looking for the best interests of their countries, right? But the Bahamas had no representation there. And so therefore, they just handed down the law and there was nobody to raise their hand and say, hey, do you know that if we implement this, most of the banks that only make between, I guess, 1 million and 5 million a year, this would be 20-30% of their profit, and this would close them out. Like nobody was there to represent us or speak on our behalf or say, no, this wouldn't work for the Bahamas, or if we do implement it, this would be the net effect. And so therefore, we cannot do this, And so now, there have been talks and they wrongfully blacklisted us back in 2018 because we have met the requirements. And so Peter Turnquest kind of lashed out at the FATF and said, no matter, what we do, y'all are going to put something else in place. Like basically now it's like a witch hunt. We see that you're trying to close us out. And so from that, what they did is they said, well, you know what? The organization won't, or the OECD or the FATF will no longer blacklist you. Each individual country will blacklist you if they have an issue against, or they feel like you're keeping their tax dollar away from them, or you're not implementing laws and people are finding your country as a leeway to evade taxes or evade any other type of financial money laundering or what have you. And so again, remember I said these are the same players now. They said that we are not going to blacklist you any longer. It will be the individual countries or the union. So right after that, after they said that we were no longer blacklisted for the taxes, immediately the Netherlands blacklisted us, then France, then Germany. And so again, basically the group, you couldn't blame the group of, say the group was on a witch hunt against you or wiping out your financial services sector. So like I said, it was the same player. So now, I don't know if you would have read in the news, Attorney General is now the chairman of the CFATF. So now we finally have a seat at the table. We have a voice. And before blacklisting is handed down, we will have somebody there to speak up on our behalf and say, hey, wait a minute, I have to vote against this. Previously, we had little or no voice, and so they just made these decisions based on what would be beneficial to their countries and not, realizing how it would affect us.
Okay, Ms. Bullitt, I have a question.
Go ahead.
We are now presently an associate member, or are we a member? When they go to plenary, do we have a seat at the table per se to actually ask questions?
Well, Carl Bethel is the chairman, so I would hope so. But it's a new post that he's taking up, and so I'll have to read up on it much more. But we
Okay.
have some. If the chairman doesn't have representation, I would be very surprised. So I will follow it to see exactly how it pans out and if it makes a difference. But he is just assuming that position like this month.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Another thing was that the FATF had said, they were coming in to help us, at the FIU and various other government sectors in May of this year because they did the mutual evaluation in 2017. They saw that we were deficient in 22 of the 40 recommendations. We put repealed and replaced, and you'll see that in the next chapter, where we repealed and replaced all our laws related to AML and money laundering. And then we put an action plan in place and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get the non-designated financial institutions, the real estates, the accountants and the lawyers with the corporate service providers, and we're going to get them regulated and we could see the DNFBP is designated non-financial business and professions, regulation 22 and 23. Yeah, so in 2019, we satisfied that. And so we say, you can't get your license, Mr. Lawyer, if you're doing corporate services. You can't get your license, Mr. Real estate person, if you offering corporate services to your clients. And so now they think about it, 2019, in order for them to carry on, they had to create a compliance department, something that the banks did from 2000. Even the credit unions were not regulated by the central bank, and so they had some like association regulating them. So it was a big change for the credit unions as well. They now fall under the central bank.
Agriculture.
So they were under agriculture.
Yes.
Okay.
Credit unions.
Right. And so they were not subject to some of the financial services fees and what have you. And so that's why you could see when all the interest rates went out the door, they were able to maintain interest rates. Now they are regulated. So of course you see fees and charges, and a lot of the interest that they offered in the past can no longer be because the cost of doing business is so much more than it used to be. And so think about the law firm now, not the criminal lawyers that we see on TV, but the corporate service lawyers like the Higgs and Johnson, and I don't want to say the larger ones, but just the smaller ones that offer corporate service. They did not have an MLRO on staff. So now you have to be registered with the Compliance Commission. That registration is free. I sure that's a licensing fee, apart from whatever license fee that you would have had to be a lawyer or real estate or what have you business. Then you had to get a MLRO on staff. And depending on the amount of customers you have, you can't be a one-man band. You have to perhaps hire a department, at least 3 persons. Let's talk about salaries. Depending on the amount of customers you had, the minimum any MLRO, I would think, starting pay is $50,000. But if you have 500 plus customers, you're looking at paying $70,000, $80,000 just for that senior compliance person, then their assistants. And so that's just the salaries and then benefits and what have you. So you're looking at $200,000 with salaries and benefits and bonuses. Mind you, the compliance department makes no money for the business. And then they have to go to continuous training. You need to put a system in place that you never had it before. World check you have to pay for, tracking every night, a name check to make sure these persons aren't committing frauds and crimes and what have you. There's regulatory requirements, so different systems, vetting and checking systems that you need to put in place to be able to satisfy the requirements of your new regulator, or you cannot get licensed. So you sit down and say, hey, do I close out or do I invest $500,000 into a department that is not going to make one penny for me, and which is going to perhaps cause some of my clients to leave because they weren't previously subjected to this bringing your passport, your national insurance, and all these things. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the net effect, just so you would understand. Okay?
Yeah.
And so all these things, like I say, it's a cause of the how expensive regulation is. Yeah, so the FATF was coming in to help us in May of 2020. Because of the pandemic, they did not come in to check to see, are these people regulated? Did you put in just the shell again like you did in 2000? Is this being enforced? What have you done? So they came to check our action plan. Are the people reporting on the taxes? And they weren't able to come in May to confirm, and so the European Union blacklisted us. Now, previously, when they had blacklisted us by mistake, they had promised us that before we blacklist you and put it on national TV and cause a embarrassment and reputational risk for your country, we will advise you and give you a time to respond, because last time we blacklisted you, it was our mistake. But of course, they said due to the pandemic, they forgot that they were supposed to tell him. And perhaps this is how he got to be the chairman of it, right? To have a little bit more control on it. Perhaps they made so much noise. And then on top of that, other countries around the world didn't get blacklisted. Other countries were able to do it virtually. So then you in Venice Parliament is where the opposition came and said, well, it's the FNM's fault now. You all could have done it virtually. So then, of course, the FNM had to put up a whole, explanation as to why they had requested it virtually, did not get a response, and subsequently was blacklisted. So that's where we are at. So I think they would have fixed that now. Carl Bethel is the chairman, and it will be interesting to see if anything comes out of that or if it's better for the country. But like I said, we need, hopefully, we are here, and this is just the beginning. We are the future leaders of our nation, and if we truly want to make a difference, we cannot just sit here and talk. Because we talk a lot. Miss Bullock can talk for 3 hours. 1,000 stories. 1,000, and you all will fall asleep and walk right back up on Miss Bullock. But we need some people who will make a difference. We need a seat at the table. We need to go all the way to the top. And we need to get to the next level. So when we are there and they're saying, oh, just implement this, we need somebody to say, hold on. If we implement this, Bishop, because one of these was to do with NGOs. If we implement this, Bishop Lawrence Rose cannot feed those people on Wednesday. And if he feed those people on Wednesday, he will be charged $10,000. Hold on a minute, there's a pandemic.
For doing a good deed.
Okay. But we see from terrorism, we understand from terrorism how they use the charities to send them money. And obviously it was very successful because Bin Laden lived for 10 years. Right?
Yes.
And very comfortably for 10 years. So we want persons to say, hey, I understand the risk. However, I also see the net effect. Yeah. And give us some time to go out there and help Bishop, because we know he may not be the most, what should I say, at a certain educational level to know that somebody could come and use his institution or use his church to launder money because they feel that he wouldn't even know the difference. He'll just be happy he get that $10,000 and he could be quiet, right?
All you thinking about how much people he could feed with that $10,000.
There you go. There you go. So we want to go to Bishop and we want to educate him, and we want him to organize a foundation so that nobody sees him as a weak link or somebody who they can use to just give him some money, feed the people, and send the rest of it to Bin Laden.
Isn't one of the conditions too with NPOs too now they have to have their own organization bank account?
Well, they have to be registered with the Registrar General. and then you are subjected to KYC, because in the implementation, there's a whole update on the Registrar General and his capabilities and what his requirements now. And so you had to be registered. Now, I'm not certain, I imagine the ones that had bank accounts, I saw in the papers where they said, bring in your passport and your KYC, and you must update, and you must be, if you don't bring in that registration from the Registrar General, then we'll have to close you up. You'll have to come and get your money. Or when persons come and say they get deposit $100,000, you got to say how it is spent. You have to keep proper records. Yeah.
Record KYC.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that's just the net effect. So it's good that we have representation. Follow it, support it, and see how it could be developed. And again, who will be next? And one senior position surely ain't gonna be enough. He's gonna need a lot of help. So hopefully, like I said, we are the future leaders. Let's stop talking. Let's get some action. Let's do some things and save our country. Okay. Okay, great.
Can I also make, is everyone in this course in the banking industry or finance industry?
I am.
I am.
I am.
Yeah, I would think most persons are.
Okay, I think I'm probably the only person that's not.
Where are
Okay.
you? Where are
I'm
you?
trying to get in. I'm trying to get in because I
You're not alone,
investigated this.
Erica.
Pardon me?
You're not alone.
Okay, two. I mean, I want to get in. I researched this field for over a year, and I did seminars with FIU during that course of that year. So we'll see what
Okay.
happens.
Yeah, so Erica, it's not only banking, it's gaming, insurance,
Yeah.
and the corporate service providers arm of a accounting firm, a law firm, and a real estate agent. So it's widespread, all of that makes up the financial services sector. Okay, so you could go in any one of those industries, and all of this is applicable.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so the IMF was established in 1945 as a specialized agency of the United Nations within the framework of the Bretton Woods Accord. It was established to avoid I have all of this in my head. It was established. Sorry, somebody said something?
Oh,
No?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. So to ensure what had happened previously in the Great Depression, that's why it did not happen again. It was to, stabilize the international monetary system, monitor the world currencies. A part of the IMF is the World Bank provides financial policy advice and technical assistance to governments and focuses on strengthening the private sector in developing countries. Again, I've said a lot about the FATF and these various international bodies. They work in tandem and they support each other. On the flip side, and for the most part, the international regulators are seen as, they force their hand, and they don't consider what smaller countries need, and they're not also helpful. And then again, they are seen as the players from the various countries make decisions based on their country needs, rather than the wider approach. But let me now tell you some good stuff about the IMF. So the IMF, and there's a process timeline that is on page 30, and just to give you an idea of how they set their missions and when they go into different countries, and how they set up a questionnaire and they answer the questionnaire and what have you. But what they did was they came into the Bahamas in, I think, December 2018, where they would have worked with the central bank, and from that work they would have left the consultative paper after they would have done their review. And in their consultation, one of the things that they had suggested to the Bahamas was that we update our disaster relief efforts. And they did that, I think, sometime in 2018. And it was very, very beneficial to us because in 2019, of course, you know that we had Hurricane Dorian, and that wiped out completely Abaco and some parts of Freeport. And what had happened after their review, again, normally they tell you their concerns, in their consultative paper, they were concerned about taxes and a few other things along with the disaster relief plan. And so the government acted swiftly in terms of their action plan. And what they said that they would implement was they would create a disaster relief plan or update the existing one where previous governments, there's an insurance where previous governments had tried to collect for, I think, Hurricane Joaquin and Hurricane Matthew. And this insurance is $900,000 a year. And so the PLP had felt that, it was a waste of money. And again, it was a waste of time because, they had tried to claim on it twice and the conditions were not met. And so the conditions had to be that there was a category 5, and then that there was excessive rain. And so previously, when they went to claim and the PLP went to claim, they told them, oh, it was not excessive rain. Oh, it was not a category 5. And so the PLP felt, I guess, and any other government would have felt that, hey, this will waste $900,000. We can invest this elsewhere within our economy. We don't need to continually pay this insurance. Just what are the odds of us having a hurricane, or what is the probability of us having a hurricane that is a category 5 or excessive rain, right? But anyway, sorry, somebody wanted to say something? No.
Just to be clear, because I think you're doing international standards, right?
Yeah.
Well, on my book for today is the Bahamas legal system and AML and CFT program. So that's why I was flipping and I was like, where is she getting this information? And so that's like chapter 6 in my book.
Okay.
Yeah, the contents are mixed up.
Yeah, my one is mixed up.
Yeah, mine is.
Okay. So what do y'all have for chapter? Because my chapter 3 says international standards, no?
No, my chapter 3 says
No, mine doesn't say that.
So
No,
yeah,
mine is saying international standards.
sorry?
My chapter 3 is international.
Well,
The same for me.
my chapter 3 is international standards, but in the
My
contents
chapter
it
3 is
says legal
international.
system.
Right. So yeah, in the contents it says legal system.
I just read it all.
Okay, so again, I must apologize. This is a version of the book that was just updated, and some of you may have different versions. I will speak to the authors about this. Okay, but just for the since we would have covered international standards, we will cover the Bahamas legal system next and then continue on. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes.
Give me some feedback.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, because we're almost at the end.
Yeah.
We're at the end. So yeah. So if it confuses you, just let me know and we'll go through it. But for the entire time, I was talking about international standards, and I will speak to Mrs. Dean about the book because we seem to have some issues with it. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, yeah, thank you for being understanding. Okay, yeah, so in back to the IMF, yeah, so they came in and they asked for an action plan. The government thankfully acted swiftly and they paid the $900,000 for the insurance, even though we had previously had problems with collecting. Then they put $44 million from a dormant fund. We had $88 million in a dormant fund. And they put laws in place because previously you would be able to come in and retrieve your dormant funds at any point. So dormant funds are kept in institutions for 7 years, and then it's sent to the central bank after 7 years. And then persons would have been able to come, like say 10 and 20 years later and say, hey, you know, my mother had passed, or my father had passed, or I had this money here. One lady came in and said, you know, her husband treated her poorly, and she was waiting till he died, and then she wanted the money, and so she got that money back. But so to the sum of $88 million, you know, various financial institutions would have submitted this money to the central bank. And so they said, we're going to change the law to say that you have 7 years with the institution you open the account with, and then 3 years after, so a total of 10 years, and then you can't get the money anymore. So they put that law in place. So they were able to set aside $44 million that would not been able to be retrievable anymore. And so they put that into the revenue. They set that aside. So they paid the insurance.
Can you explain to me, when you said they put that into the revenue, what is going to be
Of the
done?
country, or the consolidated fund, whatever. So now the money belongs to the country.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so if I came, say, on my 12th year of the country holding that money, the law now said that you only had up until 10 years to retrieve that.
Okay.
Ms. Bullitt, that's not an ethical issue.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm asking if that's not an ethical issue what the government did.
Well, no, you can't hold the money again now. There's administrative fees. You have to hold somebody, you know, somebody has to be hired to manage that money. I mean, they could charge you fees, but 10 years is, if you have had no contact for 10 years, and institutions are required to, you are required to know your customer. Well, how long should the country hold that money for you? 12 years, I mean, 10 years, and no contact, no phone call, no verification.
So what do central bank do to get in contact with family or family members who own the money?
No, central bank doesn't do anything. It's the
money just sits there.
responsibility of the financial institution. So the financial institution that would have opened the account is required to first risk rate that client. They are supposed to get their KYC and verify them. Then they need 2 forms of contact. So each, depending on how you are risk rated, you are supposed to be reviewed annually if you're risk rated high, every 2 years if you're medium, every 3 years if you're low risk. And in that review, I am supposed to be able to pick up the phone and call you and say, hello, Ms. Bullitt, how are you today? I don't see any transactions, you know, just make some contact with the bank. But if you're not doing any transactions and you're not making any contact with the bank, your account goes inactive, then it goes to dormant. And so that institution holds that account for 7 years. So within those 7 years, they have to try and reach out to you, send you mails, try and find contact. They have to exhaust all avenues of finding contact with you. And then at the 7th year, if they found no contact, then they send it to the central bank.
Okay, let's say they don't have to send it to the central bank, right? Then let's say the person died. Let's say the mother died, and the daughter's cleaning out the mother's stuff, and she comes across her mother's bank book, right? Then she goes to the bank with the mother's death certificate and and present the bank book and trying to clean the funds, and the funds is already sent to central bank. Now, if she goes to central bank and make a complaint or make an inquiry, what would happen in that case? Isn't she entitled to the money?
No,
The bank,
no.
sorry, but the bank, no customers could just come to central bank.
You have to go to the institution first.
Yeah.
You have to go to that financial institution that the account resides with. Everything is funneled through that financial institution. So, I mean, you could write a letter, but then you'd be directed to that financial institution.
Okay, so at the financial institution level, if that scenario occurs, what is it? Is there anything that can be done so that a family member could claim those funds?
Well, you would have to go and get if there's a will, you have to get it probated. If the person dies without a will, then you call it intestate, and then they have to, the courts will have to appoint who the money should go to.
Okay.
And then you would bring that documentation to the bank. Now,
And you would have to do this within a 10-year
you have to
period.
do it within the 10 years, and that's a reasonable amount of time.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so to at least, if you would have not probated the will as yet, but you made contact and say to the bank, hey, this is before the 10 years. It may take over the 10 years to have it probated, but I made contact and, they may consider and give it back to you, because they know it's in the process. But I think you would have to provide some documentation to show that it's in the process. But these would have been monies that would have sat there for more than 20 years now. And so the central bank can't just keep it forever,
Well, that's understandable. But Ms. Bullitt, in the event, expanding on what Erica was saying, in the event let's say my mother died, God forbid, but I don't find her bank book until maybe the 9th year, 9.5. Let's say I got 6 months to go until 10 years.
And this is in the scenario that his mother did not leave a will, because if she left a will, we
Right.
would know of the account.
Right. So what happens then? I'm sure probating all of this wouldn't be cleared up within 6 months.
Right.
So would any special probation would be made?
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly what the full detail of the law says. You'd probably have to go and look at it. But I'm certain once you would have made contact with your financial institution, they
Within
will
the 10-year
contact the
time.
central bank and say, we've had some contact, it's being probated. And that's within reason.
Makes sense.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm certain they just won't, at 10 years, they say, oh, well, normally they give a year after, but the law says 10 years. And that's more than reasonable. So if you find it too late, we're very sorry.
Ms. Bullitt, I hope the law is clear on that 10 years period in terms
No,
of.
you can't go. You could just go and find out exactly how much years it is. Renee, I'm saying 10 years because I would have read the white paper. There are millions of laws. Ms. Bullitt only have some of this in her head. I can't keep all these things in my head. Then if I want to speak specifically to it, I'll have to go and pull it up and read the fine details. So y'all can go pull it up and read the fine details to see. But Renee, would you know off the top of your head?
I'll just confirm it probably when I go to work. I'll just for the next class, I'll just confirm that that's
and
what
Renee too, please, if you can, if you're able to, can you provide a copy of it?
But you can go and Google. All of these things are online on the central bank website.
Okay.
And you should have
Facebook page and we have a website. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this Twitter account. Recently, there's been a lot of central bank social media pages.
Yeah, Twitter.
Right. But you can actually go to the central bank website and there's a space where you put in your email address to subscribe. And all of this data will just come to your email address. Okay, so you can do that for the central bank, the Securities Commission, and any other regulation. Somebody tell me.
Because of Hurricane Doreen.
Correct.
What was that?
Because of Hurricane Doreen.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing, my concerned with that. I know too that there's still, we were optimistic that we would have gotten so much funds from the pledges, etc. But coming now to the fact that a lot of things still haven't been done with regard to um, improvements for Abaco and like Freeport, there was I think the chair of the disaster relief had indicated that there was a shortfall on what they anticipated collecting. There was some that they even had to turn down because they were saying that it was more of a loan, a payback loan that wasn't worth it.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
But consider if we did not have any of that in place, which would have been, if it came in 2018, we would have not had any of that in place, right? And
yeah.
so that was very beneficial to us. And like I said, just because the Bahamas always see as the regulator as like a strong hand, the police trying to wipe out our system, this was an incident where what they had enforced upon us and made us put an action plan was extremely beneficial to us. Because even though we still have some difficulties, had we not gotten that insurance, I mean, first time ever category 5,
Yeah.
first time ever excessive rain. They had tried to collect from this like 3 or 4 hurricanes previously and wasn't able to. So we got, I think, $14 million.
Right. So that would have, that's a different fund from the pledges and
yeah, completely different. Yeah,
right.
Completely.
Right.
This was what we had in place before the pledges. And so
right.
nothing, had we not had that insurance, had we not, assigned that 44 million, had we not had that line of credit, we would have been really up the creek without a paddle. So it was extremely beneficial to us.
Just bearing in mind the fact that 2020 had another thing in store for us.
Yeah, right, a pandemic. And
I was
again,
about to say that too.
okay,
Yeah.
great. So at least we have a plan. Prior to this, we had no plan, and we did not make an investment in the insurance because we had paid it for so many years, and we said no, it makes no sense. Okay, so I don't know. The world is affected by this pandemic, and you know how these insurances are. They probably have a clause in there that says, by act of nature or something that I don't know how it will work, but perhaps we may could even claim for this pandemic. I haven't heard any word about a claim. So, but thankfully we had something in place when Dorian came, and it was very, very timely.
Okay, Ms. Bullitt, I could also share too, recently with someone signing on to take out a life insurance. They are now having you sign this clause that if you, I guess, you die from COVID, the insurance doesn't, I guess, pay you out because of COVID. Someone was just saying something of that sort the other day. Now, I don't know how true it is.
Oh, that's outrageous. I mean, the insurance companies, they are billion-dollar companies. And that's why the government has to intervene on behalf of the people to ensure, a lot of people have preconditions and they say that we don't cover for preconditions. We don't cover for this. It's so much that they don't cover for. So why would you pay an insurance your entire life or even for 20 or 30 years and still not get coverage at the end?
Well, they already told me, my daughter who's in school and with the coming home and having to take tests and stuff like that. So whenever she does those tests, well, now you could do the rapid antigen if it's accepted, but they were like they don't pay for that. So the test that she had to do to come home the last time, and other than the ones maybe the school, because they usually test them regularly. But that's money that I won't be paid for or covered under the insurance. So whenever she has to do those tests, and if it's required for like a PCR test or whatever, I just have to pay it.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's very sad. And thank you, Erica and Renee, for sharing. But again, that's why the government sometimes has to intervene and enforce, you know, for protection of the people. Because, like I said, these billion-dollar companies, I mean, they have made money off poor people for many, many years. And this is a pandemic affecting the entire world. Now, I could see if you say, you know, let's say we will not pay. If this person say they're going on vacation, but somebody coming home from school or, you know, traveling back and forth, vice versa, or for business, the government needs to intervene on behalf of the people to, you know, force some things, you know, in the to make it beneficial for the people. Yeah.
Hello.
Right. Yes.
Hi. I read this week in the business section where the central bank governor is I guess the central bank is introducing the financial services ombudsman this year for the I guess the banking institutions. And this role is to I guess monitor the banks and make sure they're doing well by their clients. So my question is, for the insurance industry, I know we have the insurance commission, but is there a same, I guess, procedure in place for these insurance companies so that issues like what Erica brought up just now would not happen, or they can impose these, I guess, unethical things to their
Okay.
clients?
So what I know about the Office of the Ombudsman, because the majority of my career I was at the Royal Bank, and we had our own Office of the Ombudsman. And so the Ombudsman is really to just satisfy, you know, customer complaints or deal with any issues before it goes to court
Right.
or before, you know, reputational risks is involved. So that is for clients and even staff, because I had an issue with Royal Bank where my, you know, health insurance wasn't paid for, you know, I was paying it for like 7 years, and then I was pregnant and having my baby, and they told me I had no coverage, even though it came out of my salary. HR didn't want to get involved and give me back my money. So
Wow.
Royal Bank had an ombudsman. I called the ombudsman, and ombudsman, I documented in 1 week. I had full coverage for me and my family. They paid for me to have my baby in full. And, you know, so I always thought the office was very effective. And over the years, when customers, you know, would have been charged fees or had inconveniences or what have you, they would have called the office of the ombudsman, and, you know, the information would have been trickled down to send this customer flowers, reverse the fees on their account, do what have you. And so that's primarily what it is for. Um, I hope it expands. You know, they talked about consumer protection, and, you know, there's a consumer protection agency, but it's not very efficient. And so they're saying that,
Not
you
for
know,
20 years now.
right. So they're saying, please don't create another office that's just gonna sit there and, you know, take up space and collect a salary. But like I said, because I think most of the Canadian banks have that office established already at their parents, um, it may be more effective. And my understanding, and it's not only for banks, but, you know, the regulators have this consolidated forum going on now where the securities committee, all the regulators are combined into one. So this office will represent the insurance commission, the
Listen.
gaming board, you know, so it will take all those complaints. That's what I heard. I can't imagine that they don't do it for banks. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, how many,
Well, you
what's
think the
the
insurance
level of complaints you expect to get from, is the number of complaints that significant that you need a whole office just for the banking sector? I think it's for the entire financial services sector.
Yeah,
So
me
it should
too.
cover insurance. If you have that complaint, you will
I
call
think
that
so.
office as well.
Mm.
Yes,
And
I
It
think
probably,
would
so.
it would make sense that all the regulatory bodies come under that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I imagine when we spoke of it, that's what they said, you know, that's their combined effort. Whereas, you know, they will have like a representative probably in the insurance commission, but everything will roll up into this ombudsman office, and then, you know, you go to your various contacts in that industry to gather the information and to get the both sides of the story and to make sure the customers feel that if they do come to the Bahamas and do business, that, their issues will be properly handled. Because a lot of times we make mistakes.
Okay, so Ms. Bullitt, do you know, with CLECO, did everybody get paid out?
I don't think so.
No, I know the bishop was at Simeon Hall.
Yes,
They had, it took years to be paid, first of all, and then the persons got like a half a pay, and then I don't know if they just fell off the, other issues became more pertinent and the people got tired and stopped pushing. I don't know. I didn't follow it, but I know it took years. Whatever happened in the end, it was unacceptable. The mere fact that they would have waited for years to be compensated.
Yeah.
So again, the office would handle stuff like this. Because, legal to go out and get a lawyer to represent you to get your own money back, that's expensive.
Yeah.
And then the time, my God, if you look at the court dockets and stuff like that, these things take 10 years. Yeah, so hopefully we will prove if this office is effective when they start to list the issues and we see them being satisfied in a timely manner and people are being compensated properly. Yeah. Okay, so overview of international standards. And again, I apologize because, like I said, there's a new version of the book, and perhaps they gave some persons the old version and some persons the new version. So I'll speak to the office about that. My apologies again. But are we able to, everybody know where we are? We are clear?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so the Bahamian legal system. And again, it's just a one-pager. I would have showed you this when I pulled the central bank guidelines, where it just talks about the AML framework. The laws outline the crime of money laundering and the underlying criminal offense. It outlines terrorism financing, which businesses are subject to AML, CPF laws. It creates requirements for reporting entities to follow. It creates government agencies to receive suspicious transactions. And what is our government agency that receives these suspicious transactions?
FIU.
Okay, excellent. The FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit. It creates a regulator to oversee compliance with AML legislation. And like Jason just said, for insurance, it's the Insurance Commission. For gaming, it's the Gaming Board. Then for accountants, lawyers, and real estate, it's the Compliance Commission. For banks, it's the Central Bank. For securities business, it's the Securities Commission. Okay, it names law enforcement and government bodies that will have access to receive the suspicious report related to money laundering and terrorism financing. So again, there is a suspicious transaction form, and the law says that anybody can fill it out. But of course, our institutions have a money laundering reporting officer, and so if we're not, we should all be comfortable speaking to compliance. Compliance should always be approachable, have an open door policy. But if you feel more comfortable with your manager, there should be an internal form that you fill out, you submit that to your manager, and then compliance investigates. Then they decide if it needs to be reported. And so once you would have sent that information on to your manager or to compliance, then you leave it. It's no longer your responsibility. It's their responsibility to investigate and then decide whether or not it's suspicious or not. Okay. Now, if you feel that, oh, this Miss Bullitt is the compliance officer, but it's her cousin, and they always letting stuff like this slide, then you have a right to disclose, and then you can go outside the institution and report it. Just like I said, the law permits anybody to fill out this suspicious transaction report, but you must follow, internal policies of your organization. So just be mindful of that. And then, do you really want to continue to work for a company that is not going to that's not compliant and would, compromise their selves because it's somebody's cousin or friend or family member. So be mindful of all of that. Okay, and so in the laws, the framework, the Proceeds of Crime Act, and again, all of these came out in 2000, but in 2018, again, to satisfy the 40 recommendations, they were repealed and replaced, most of them. So it's the Proceeds of Crime Act 2018, and we refer to that as POCA, the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Financials Reporting Act 2018, which is the FPRA, the Financial Transaction Reporting Regulations, the Financial Transaction Reporting Wire Transfers Regulations, the Financial Intelligence Unit Act, the Financial Intelligence Transaction Reporting Regulations, and the Traveler's Currency Declaration Act 2015. Okay, you should familiarize yourself with all of those. They are not in layman's terms. They are like 200 pages each, but they are guidelines. And so you can go to the central bank guideline and more in layman's terms, more look through the table of contents, more easy read, and you should be able to understand that. From these, then you should have an internal AML policy within your institution, and it should carbon copy if you're a bank. It should carbon copy with the central bank guidelines. So if you're a securities business, with the securities, if you're insurance, with your insurance guidelines says, okay? And sometimes, things may be missing, but you want to question it because this is why you go to the table of contents of the regulator, and then you go to your internal policy table of contents and say, hey, we don't talk about enhanced due diligence. We don't talk about PAPs. Perhaps my institution doesn't offer services to PAPs, so you should understand the products and the services that you offer and the risks associated with it. Okay? Now, the Traveler's Currency Declaration Act. What is that about? Anybody familiar with that? You all who like to go to Miami. So all these
Is
women
that the
here.
one with the $10,000?
Yeah, you're supposed
Yes,
to
it is.
declare
Declaring,
one
declaring the
before.
$10,000. Yeah.
Okay. And so
Oh,
do
okay.
we know what the update is in that?
It's 15,000 now, right?
No. I mean, I don't know,
Increase?
50,000. No, I don't know. But unless it increased recently.
Oh,
But
Yeah, it's 15,000 now.
oh, it's 15,000 now. Okay. I wasn't aware of that increase. But let me just tell you
I
what
wasn't
happened.
aware either.
Yeah. Let me just tell you what happened a few years ago, and you want to all be, aware. So because we all used to travel before this pandemic, and so a few years ago, a very prominent doctor would have gone through. It would have been I want to say customs, because it wouldn't have been on the U.S. side. Our airport have two sides. There's a side where you go to Cuba, Canada, and Jamaica, and another side where is U.S. International Customs. We familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this very prominent doctor, she would have gone through the side where you go to, she's going to Jamaica. And in her suitcase, she had $220,000 cash. Anybody remember that story?
No.
Okay.
It's the
Where's
first
that
time
hearing?
hearing this.
Yeah, I heard of it.
Right. Okay. So very nice doctor, very familiar.
Yes.
A lot of females went to her. And so she was immediately arrested at the airport. And previously, her husband, who was a doctor as well, used to be in Parliament. And so I think Perry Christie was the prime minister at the time. And so they arrested her at the airport. And her husband immediately called Perry Christie and said, because he's a lawyer as well. And he used to be a politician. And he said, my wife is under arrest. The police obviously does not know the law and what have you. And so at that time, the law said, if you're traveling to, the US law said that. And from the US, you must declare.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
It did not say from the Bahamas. If you're going
Right.
to US
Right.
territory, you declare.
Clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so everybody just assumed that meant if you're traveling from the
Everybody.
Bahamas. And so they were wrong, and they had to release her, and they also had to give her back her money. Now, a lot of people what they call it, politicize that and say because he was a politician, but no, the law actually did not say from the Bahamas. And so Of course, lawmakers saw that as a glitch,
Oh,
and
okay.
immediately they changed the law to say not only from the US, now
Oh,
from the Bahamas. So
okay.
even now, if you go to Cuba or Jamaica or Canada,
Okay.
it's now the law. So that's how it affects us now. And
Okay.
so good that it's up to, I didn't know it was up to 15. Are y'all sure it's 15 for this traveler's currency?
I can check.
Yeah, check, because I know to deposit money into the bank, cash 15 is the limit. I mean, you could
Yeah.
actually ask for any source of funds for any amount,
Mm,
but you over 15, you must ask for source of funds.
mhm.
So don't confuse the two. Because I really didn't hear about this law going to
No,
the 15.
sorry. As clients traveling to the US and they requested an amount to go in US currency in the bank.
Mhm.
It was increased from 10 to 15. So that's my apology, not for the traveling.
Yeah, not for
Oh,
the
okay.
declaration. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry about
But
that.
again, like I say, that's okay. You know, if you need the specific detail, go and do your research, and
Search.
that's how compliance works.
Mhm.
Okay, because there's no way to remember all of these laws in your head and every single thing that it says. But you at least have a guide and a reference to where I must start my research. So this conversation is very interesting. So very good, yeah. So as far as I know, and y'all, you could go and verify before you travel. It's $10,000, and just because of that, that incident helped them push it to say it's not only for the U.S. or we got U.S. people looking down on us and say, hey, that's a gap, that's a glitch. So therefore, make sure, because these people could go into Jamaica, then to the U.S. and not have to declare. So you wanna fix your laws. So of course we fixed our laws, updated that, and did the amendments, and immediately some guys were at the Bahama, and they were there for spring break, and they um won $30,000. So they were all excited, and they were going on Air Canada again, not to the US side. So the
Yeah.
guy called his dad and said, Dad, we just won. And the dad said, okay, split the money up and just come through. But it has to be that Bahama is called and say that these people just won. Because recently, just last week, and you can look in the papers, I think somebody won $80,000 and they did not declare. And so those guys were arrested at the airport. Just between them, they had the $30,000. The judge confiscated the entire 30,000, and she fined them $1,500. And just last week, the judge confiscated. I am almost sure they said again at the Bahama gambling, won $80,000 and confiscated it and charged them again. So the law states that whomever is traveling with you, you have to, also ensure that they don't have Uber. The other day I experienced it, and the guy said, so how much money do you have with you? And I took out a piece of paper out of my bag and I wrote it down, and I handed it to him. And then he was like, well, why did you do that? I said, it's private. My significant other is here. I can't tell him how much money. Women, we can't tell them how much money we have. I was like, so what you doing? You don't want me to show?
That's just cold.
That is joking.
No,
That is
but
cold.
you think about it. Think about it. How are you asking me how much money I really have in front of him? Like, really? That's that's a breach of confidentiality.
That is funny.
Yes, I
I
said
feel you.
no.
I feel you.
Yeah, I say so. No, keep that. That's between me and you. Now you ask him. And of course, my eye was wide. I was like, let's ask him how much cash he have now. Let's see. But yeah, but you have to, or you may find yourself on the wrong side of the law. So even when we go with these church groups and other organizations or a group of people, and we say, oh, we were walking by ourselves. No, you all book your tickets together. They already know. So there's nothing wrong with declaring. You can say, I have $10,000, but you just have to say where it came from, or that it's legitimate, that you really into a drug deal or what have you. So just be sure that you protect yourself, and don't think that you're going on Cuban and the Jamaican and Canadian side, that you might end up in jail. Okay, so be careful with that. Okay. Okay, good. So let's take a look. Because I know some persons are having a problem. They're saying it's bullet, you can't see your screen. So can you see it now? Let's see. Let me go back to the chat and just look to see who was having Erica, or that was you, Erica Wood.
Yeah, now I could see the
I
screen
could see it too.
Okay,
I could see it now.
Okay, good. So we want to, again, like I say, familiarize ourselves with these laws. This is the Proceeds of Crime Act. This how it looks. You see all these sections. You see why we need a lawyer.
Okay.
Right. So just familiarize yourself. So the two important parts that everybody should be excuse me, aware of is tipping off under identified risk, tipping off, and failure to disclose. And so number 13, Poker 2000, go online. The first one that'll come up is the 2000.
You said tipping off?
Yeah. Mute your mic, please, Erica.
Oh, sorry.
You mean?
That's
no,
me.
that's the other Erica. Two Ericas. I can say Wood and Ferguson. Okay. Yeah.
You said tipping off, and what was the next one? Sorry.
You're tipping off and failure to disclose. So I just want you to ensure the 218. This is very important. Like I said, somebody wrote a 3,000 word essay on the wrong FATF recommendations. Then somebody wrote a whole section on the Proceeds of Crime Act 2000. Okay, so be sure that you check that date. Once you check that date, you want to come on down. Section 14 talks about tipping off. Section 13 talks about failure, and 12 and 13 talks about failure to disclose. Okay, and so again, on the exam, somebody asked about the multiple choice questions. There are some multiple choice questions at the back of the book on case 2 that you could practice. And these are the types of multiple choice questions you will see on the exam. So let me just get the page, which is page 19. And then you want to look at the penalties, because there's, the law, like I said, it's not in layman's terms. And so it says, you will see how it sets up the penalty. So it may be a little difficult. We will make sure that we get the right penalties. Okay, so let's look at failure to disclose. Okay, let's see which one is the failure to disclose.
Right there. Oh.
Yeah, I just wanna we'll read 13 because it's basically the same thing. Okay, but it includes everybody in the organization. So once you sign up, teller, straight to executive, in your initial sign up or in your initial training, they should tell you about these two laws. In the past, there were a lot of problems where people would say, oh, that's below my pay grade, and I ain't going to jail and there's no protection. But once you sign up for these positions, this is what the requirement is. You were required to disclose if somebody is money laundering or terrorist financing, and you were required to not to tip them off and say, oh, Miss Bullet, them know about you, and you going to jail, or we tracking your account or we gonna block it. So you have to be careful on what you say. You cannot tip off. And then with the penalties, because this is what the multiple choice question is going to ask you, what are the penalties? Now for 15, it tells you these are the penalties on the 90 level, but this is 12, 13, and 14. People go right here to 9 and 11 and they say, this is what the penalty is. It's incorrect. Then section 2 says, under sections 12 to 14, this is the conviction, okay, or this is the penalty. So just to be aware of how the law can be tricky sometimes. And of course, the question is going to have both, it be multiple choice, it's going to be very close. And so you have to know the two to make sure that you get it correct, okay? So in your studying, you can go back, but we'll read it now. Let's see, let me look at these list of names from the people who I haven't heard from, who I don't know is yet. Who Miss Bullet don't know? Come on. Let me see who I didn't hear from, but all this entire class. Meryl Morris, Renita. Who else? Y'all don't want y'all 10%?
You heard from me.
Denara Strong.
You heard from Renita.
I heard from Renita.
Yeah, she spoke
I
earlier.
spoke about dirty money and the Wells Fargo.
Oh, okay, Renita. Okay. Let me put your name on my list. Okay. Your name on my list. Okay. Denara Strong, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, how you doing
I'm fine,
today?
and how are you?
Fine, thank you. You don't need this 10%.
Yes, but everyone was talking.
Okay, good. So now it's your turn. Okay, good. You'll please be very quiet whilst Denara reads for us so we can understand what our obligations are. Excellent, Denara.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's on the screen. Can you see the screen?
Book?
Yes,
Sorry?
ma'am.
Is this in the book?
No, it's not. It's not in the book.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
remember I said this course, some things in the book, and then it requires research, and so this is why we're going through it. So so this is something that you have to come back to into the law to look at it. So that will help you familiarize yourself with the law. Okay.
Yes.
So take some notes. Get a pen and write this
So
down.
you're not sending this to us? Okay.
No, ma'am. Research it. Find it. Get used to it. I could send it, but I want you to practice. Okay? No response. Okay. All right. Denara, go ahead.
So I'm reading number 13.
Yes.
Failure to disclose by nominated officers. A nominated officer commits an offense if A, the nominated officer knows or suspects or has reasonable grounds for knowing or suspecting that another person is engaged in money laundering or an identified risk activity. B, an information or other matter on which the knowledge or suspicion of the nominated officer is based on which gives reasonable grounds for such knowledge or suspicion came to him in consequence of a disclosure made under section 19(1)(a). And C, he does not make the required disclosure as soon as it's practical after the information or other matter comes to him. 2, for the purpose of this section, a required disclosure is a disclosure of the information or other matter to a focal point officer in the form and manner, if any, prescribed for by the Financial Intelligence Unit. A person does not commit an offense under this section if he has a reasonable excuse for not disclosing the information or other matter.
Now, what would be a reasonable excuse? See, so that is so vague. And we know most of the times, persons go hire Lucille or Wayne Monroe, and they win on technicalities. And this is how they win, because what deems an excuse reasonable? What would make an excuse reasonable?
A family death or emergency. They slip their mind.
Okay, I guess. But that's so, that could be so many things that would make it reasonable.
Yes.
But anyway, go ahead. Thank you. Tipping off.
Tipping off. A person commits an offense if he knows or suspects that any disclosure under this part has been made or an action has been taken by the Financial Intelligence Unit in relation to anything under this part, and he makes a disclosure to another person which is likely to prejudice an investigation which might be conducted following the disclosure referred to in paragraphs A or A1 or A2.
Right. So then you have to go back and look at A1 and A2, and so the law is just very, very complex. Okay, let's go down to the penalties. And remember, when you look at this, it's not the sections 9 to 11. They could have just said the tipping off, penalties for tipping off and failure to disclose, but no, they say that the sections. So go ahead, read section 2.
I have to scroll up to see. I can't. Okay.
Penalties and
penalties. Okay. A person who commits an offense under sections 9 to 11 is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 7 years or to a fine not exceeding $500,000 or to both, or conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years to a fine or to both. Number 2, a person who commits an offense under sections 12 to 14 is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 years or to a fine not exceeding $500,000 or to both, or on conviction or indictment to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years or to fine or to both.
Okay. Okay, good. So that's our responsibility. Once you work in the financial services sector, you are bound by these two laws. So make sure that you're familiar. Make sure that you understand the penalty when you come back. 9 to 11 talks about, let's see, what does 9 to 11 talk about? 9, I don't even see 9 in this. So, but arrangements concerning proceeds of crime, acquisitions, use, and possession of proceeds of crime. Where's 9? This law, how could I miss it? Or they have, or
I think
concealing.
Concealing.
Yeah, you just have to go up a little further. Okay, concealing. So make
Yeah, but why
sure.
is it?
that's
Sorry?
come after
That's
9.
weird. That's weird. That
Yeah,
9 keeps crossing.
yeah. A fact of just a mistake.
An oversight.
Yeah, an oversight. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you don't get it confused when you're reading it, and know that what the correct penalty is. Section 2, sorry, would be the correct penalty. Okay, and like I said, more than likely that would be a multiple choice question on your exam. So I would go back to this and do your research and make sure that you have that documented. Okay, I've seen that on almost every test every year.
I don't know, I don't understand why they always writing these laws to be so complicated. The person does not commit an offense in breach of section 9 to 11. Why do you even have to put that there?
How else would the lawyers make money? They went to law school for
Lawyers
30
just
years.
create law, you know. What are you saying?
Yeah, if you could just pick this up, if you could just pick this up and read this yourselves and apply it without them interpreting it, without central bank regular guidelines, then there would be no need for lawyers, right? So I guess. And I don't know if you'll ever call a law firm. When you call a law firm, they say, "Hey, Ms. Bullitt, it's good to see you or speak to you today. It's 11:30." And then they say, when you end the call, it's 2 o'clock, right? And so then you get a bill for $200 an hour from 11:30 to 2 o'clock. So, and they're millionaires. So that's just how it works. That's just how it works.
Okay, so Ms. Bullitt, question, do you know of any compliance officer that really did go to jail for any of these offenses?
Well, all over the US now.
I mean, in the Bahamas. The Bahamas.
So we are law-abiding citizens, Erica. What are you speaking of? But as far as I know, remember we had a staggered approach to the law. The law has just been updated in 2018 and then enforced in 2018. And this is why the FATF felt like, hey, this compliance thing been going on for 18 years at that time. And nobody been to jail, nobody get arrested, nobody was removed. And so what happens is that there have been a lot of issues. A lot of issues have been swept under the mat. The law was not in place and then it was not enforced. Because even now, this is the enforced law and we see reasonable, we see words like that could create a technicality. And so for the first time ever, we saw our politicians going before the courts, right? That was the first time ever. And then if you look all around the Caribbean, the Prime Minister of Brazil has been impeached. Guatemala, different countries, South Korea. In Brazil, it's you are guilty until proven innocent. So I've heard, and you could probably Google this to verify, that the governor and the central bank of Brazil has been to jail, and the compliance professionals in Brazil have been to jail as well. Because again, you're guilty until proven innocent. In the Bahamas, we are innocent until proven guilty. And then, it's everybody, brother, sister, cousin, somebody, family member. So this is why the FATF felt and they had to come in and help us. So immediately, Michelle Reckley was the first person to be brought before the courts with the urban renewal. And then
Oh, yeah.
every politician that has gone before has been, just let go, even if the case was blatant and it didn't make any sense. And so they felt like they had to come and help us. So immediately, I think the Attorney General put out that we had prosecuted 84 persons. But for the bulk of that, it's the people who stole by reason of employment or committed fraud, and then they slap money laundering onto it. So we ain't there yet, but we are being internationally watched. Central bank uses moral suasion, where they call you in and they ask you to leave. They don't drag you before the courts unless you outright committed a crime. And then some people don't follow what central bank say, and then they take it before the court. But central bank, wanted to not let the Bahamas look like the regulator was going to come in and shut you down. And so I think they would have shut down one bank that would have made international news. And then they, one or two other places, they call them in and say, listen, you have 30 days to close the bank. Do it discreetly. And of course, the news sometimes says about it. The Securities Commission, on the other hand, puts you out. They give warnings and notices and stuff like that. Like with the pineapple people who was defrauding like the half of the nation. You know what I mean? And then with Swiss America, who, turned the business over to his son, and then his son did some unscrupulous things. Now, we are not good at the prosecution, then the law wasn't in place. And then, like I said, you could pay Lucille or Wayne Monroe and they could find the technicality. So now the pandemic came and they didn't come in to help the FIU. But, we're being internationally watching. So somebody is going to have to go to jail. And let it not be us, because normally it's the small fry who don't know no better, who they get slapped some heavy penalties and fines on. We can't afford the expensive lawyer. So it will be us, because they expanded the law, and it's not only the compliance officer to go to jail, it's everybody within the institution who played a part, who was negligent, who couldn't say, this was what the law says, or this is my internal policy that was implemented, and this is what I follow. Because again, you cannot eliminate risk, you can only mitigate it. So mitigate means I could put controls in place, I could fully train myself, I could understand how to protect my institution, right? But you can't eliminate it. So there are people, you could have the best controls in place, they're gonna come in and they will infiltrate the system and they will defraud the bank, or they will cause you to have to come before the law. You have to be, sufficiently trained and knowledgeable to say, listen, this is what the policy says, this is what the law says, this was my control in place, I was not negligent. Then you will not go to jail. But if you don't know the policy, you don't know the process, you just show up to work every day and follow judgment or some operational standards that's been around for years, and there are a lot of deficiencies, you could possibly end up going to jail. Okay, so every compliance is everybody's business. Everybody has a part to play. Okay, and so what the central bank has done is they've said that we are going to create a list. And so the banks that shut down or they have significant deficiencies and AML control issues, we are going to put those compliance professionals on the list. And we know that the compliance function is a regulated function, which means the regulator has to approve it. And so when you go and apply for this job, your previous bank would have shut down, and they said that, well, the tone from the top was poor. They didn't have a strong AML regime in place. Compliance didn't work with the regulator. They could put your name on the list. And so when your name come around to be hired again, you will be blocked. And so that was one of the implementations, because they saw too many compliance officers and even CEOs slipping through the cracks. Even in America, the CEOs, you would hear that there's a bailout, but then the CEO getting $1 million bonus. How if the bank fail? And so Obama even put it in place where the bank fail, so you get no bonus and you might go to jail. Okay? So, like I said, from 2018, which is just 2.5 years ago, all of this started. We are on a learning curve. Some of us don't even believe we still have to do it. I can tell you in the credit unions, some of the persons were in my class because they didn't really pick, they figure, oh, this person been here the longest. This person might have been trained, um, don't know much about AML, but hey, that's the compliance officer. But she's been here for 20 years, so she next in line, whether she trained or not. And so go to the AML class and you become the compliance officer because we need to check the box and central bank say we need this compliance officer. So that's what you saw happening in the credit unions. And in 2019, central bank really came back down on institutions because I was in a position where, in the past, central bank would say, send A, B, and C. And I said A, B, and C. And I say, they asked, do you have this in your policy? And I said, yes, of course, you can't tell the regulator no. So I said, yes. And then for the first time ever, central bank called me on the phone and said, okay, Ms. Bullard, produce this policy, produce that. And I said, what? I have to show source document and proof. And I fell off my chair and I was like, central bank, this take 3 months to call me back. What are they doing? But they had created an analytics department, so did the Securities Commission, and they had a hands-on approach. But they calling me on the phone and they is my friend and they say, Ms. Bullard, you said you had this in place. Show me the training logs. You said that there's a deficiency in your wire department or in your securities department. Show me their CVs. I need to see the resumes for all the people in the securities department because I want to know if there's sufficient education in that department or if there's sufficient knowledge and experience in that department. And in some cases, when there was not, they said, okay, you have to go to training. It's mandatory. And if there are any more deficiencies, then we have to start and let some people go. So this, like I say, 2018 was the first time I ever saw that, and I fell off my chair. And I am talking about hands-on approach. So no longer Ms. Bullard could just tick the box. We moved from the check the box rules-based approach to the risk-based approach now, where it's enforced, it's hands-on. You call them on the phone, they talk to you. Used to take a month before, and they are very hands-on. They help you. Before everybody used to be afraid of the regulator. If you in the compliance department or in a senior position, the regulator has to be your friend, or you'll be going home because, like I say, yes, we survived in the financial services sector, and these things weren't enforced. In 2019, they said you need a risk assessment. And we said a risk assessment, we've been in the law from 2000, but we never do that before. They say, well, learn. It has to be done. The same thing with CRS and FACA. We never do that before. We don't even know for taxes. Learn. Had to be done. And if it was not done, like this, the banking industry took it seriously, but the credit union said, oh, we never do that before. They don't do nothing. Well, hello. That same person who they had been in the position for 20 years, who they sent to my intro class, got let go because she missed the deadline. Okay, and the bank got fined $100,000 to credit union for not they was charging you $5,000 a day for every day you did not submit it. Okay, so she got let go, and it wasn't really her fault because she wasn't even interested in compliance, but she had been there for the longest. She was next in line for a promotion, and they say, go ahead, you have to go take this stuff. And that's what happened. So she didn't even get a fair chance. So all of us are on a learning curve, and gone are the days when we are checking the box. It's enforcement, so you have to take your job seriously. If you don't know what to do, you start with the policy and procedure. You can't say, oh, there's too much reading. It's your job. You have to decide whether you want to have, keep your job or not, because you could go to jail, and so you don't want to be at risk. And trust me, outside of the people who sitting down all day trying to hack your system, there are people in your organization who are unscrupulous and it's a pandemic and they don't know how to adjust their lifestyles to the new norm. And so they can move this money here or move that money there and put this there. And next thing you know, you involved because you signed something. Okay, so be very careful. And then all of those unscrupulous customers who we know we shouldn't be doing business with, who are on sanctions lists, and they create a profile and they outside their profile and we ain't doing nothing about it. That's what happened with Michelle Reckie. Michelle Reckie was a government employee. She opened her personal account saying my government salary coming up. Her government salary couldn't have been more than $3,000 a month. Government employees is only be in the bank normally for the first 3 days of the month, and then after that you don't see them till payday. But here it is, she coming in the bank every day. Her profile say $2,000. How did CIBC and the Teachers Credit Union take $1.3 million from her? How? How did they cash those checks? How did they negotiate them? What happened? That happened just before enforcement started. You know, so please, that's why I get y'all watch Dirty Money. You fall off your chair at how Volkswagen defrauded the entire world with a new system. Nobody knew how to use it, you know, to pass an admissions test. Okay, did Erica talked about, was it Erica who talked about Wells Fargo?
Laundromat.
Yeah, okay, laundromat. And then, yeah, so all of these cases create awareness. So to make it more interesting, I said, go on Netflix and watch them and you'll be surprised. And then you will go to your institutions and you will implement things to protect yourself.
Ms. Bullock, can I ask unassociated question? Well, maybe, okay, as a person just entering into the field, like I'm switching careers totally. I've been in the mental health field. My background is in psychology, so I have a master's degree in psychology. I'm really fascinated by this field, and what I like about it is that it's very structured and it's also evolving. It's always changing. It's always something new, right? But based on your job description, you know what you're supposed to be doing on day to day. So I like that aspect, and I like the criminality of it, and I like investigating and researching. I like that. What I'm not sure about is which area I want to go in, whether in private banking, offshore banking, or the insurance industry. I was in gaming for my first job was a croupier, so I have a great knowledge of the gaming industry, but I don't want to work no shift work anymore.
Okay, so if you have the gaming background, I would stick with that already because it's hard to just get into the field. You know, so since you already have that gaming background, you understand what happens at the tables. Now you can regulate them. So I would go the regulators route, and then perhaps the FIU, since the criminality of it fascinates you, and then you do have that psychological background too that will all tie in. And so, yeah, I would take that route.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the FIU had a lot of positions available. And the Securities Commission and I don't know, yeah, the Securities Commission, the Compliance Commission, and the FIU had lots of positions, you know, available recently.
All right, thank you.
But it's very, trust me, like I said, it just might sound remedial, but it's very comprehensive. It requires a lot of reading.
Right.
Not only it's very comprehensive, sorry, it requires a lot of reading. And then you have to understand. I don't know if you all remember comprehension that we took in primary school in grade 4 and 5. They should have taken that all the way through high school because people read, but they don't understand and they don't interpret correctly. And then they don't realize that this law, if you're not a lawyer, you can't just pick up the law and understand it. And then there are amendments to the amendment to the amendment. So it's very complex. So reading, comprehending, understanding, and applying. And I guess comprehension is is applying, and then you have it's decision based. And again, people take it lightly, but a lot of us can't make decisions, and we can't make the tough ones. We shy away. So if you're a person who don't like conflict, if you can't be diplomatic in a conflict, you have to row and carry on. then this ain't for you. But once you would have done all this research and you put it together, then you have to make a decision. And you can't just pull one out of your head. You have to document how you would have made a decision based on what you research. Because right now, today, because of the pandemic, some decisions may be the right decision. And then 2 years from now, there's no more pandemic. And so therefore, you know, something else. So start your library. Because trust me, all of this is going to be beneficial to you. And each time you do your research, you know, international standards, money laundering, terrorist financing, start your library, keep all your notes together, keep all your websites together. Okay.
Yeah.
And then training is very important. Networking, very important. Okay. Be
Yeah,
able to pick
I'm a
up the
member
phone and
of
call
the
somebody and say, how do you do this? Sorry?
Yeah, I have some great resources through ACAM.
Okay.
I am a member, so I'm going to be taking the AML CTF money laundering specialist exam in 2 months.
Okay. Okay. Well done. I wish you the best of luck, and like you
Thank
definitely
you.
on the right track. And whether it's AML or any other thing, you should just be committed to continuous learning, whatever. If you work in the operations field, if you work at you know, the finance, whatever, be committed to continuous learning. Get your CPD, continuous development, professional development hours. Stay abreast of what's happening in your industry. Stay abreast of what's happening in your country, because we see we have the same players, so nobody should be there for 40 and 50 years. And then you have to, you know, kick them out. But who's the replacement? You know, who comes next? So start now to see what areas interest you and where you're passionate about, and take some of what we learn and apply it and fight for those seats at the table. We could go, we have to start within first, and then we could go global. But the Bahamas needs a lot of help. Okay, and we are definitely the future. You know, this is where it starts. So please go out there, and I hope that this is not a class that we just take in the past because we need to go do something, but hopefully you are now intrigued and you would want to go further. Because even after you would have you know, worked for 20 or 30 years, should you not be a consultant? Would you not be expert at what you would have done?
Yes.
Can you not contribute? What do you do in your retirement years? Should you clog up the system for 40 years, or could you walk off a job after 25 and say, now I'm consulting, now I'm in the political arena, now I'm making a contribution to my country to make it a better place. Now I'm on one of these international bodies, or, you know, and I represent the Bahamas, so the Bahamas would have a voice. You know, so just think about it. Think about it. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
One question I just wanted to find out from the person who watched Laundromat, is that the movie based on Al Capone's career as a criminal?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I forgot what that one is called.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Ms. Bullock?
Yeah.
I have a question. I watched Payday and the HSBC. I thought that HSBC, if you ask me, they got away with it because they didn't really get, they got a fine of 1.9 billion. And basically they said that's 5 weeks of profits for this bank.
Right, so they got a slap on the wrist.
Operating.
Right, and this is why I want you to watch it and be aware, because the big boys, they normally get away with it. It's the small fries like us, unless you have $1 million sitting somewhere and you have the right connections, you go to jail. You know what I mean? Look at Peter Nygaard. They said Peter Nygaard has a criminal record back to 1970, had spent no time in jail, and now he's more than 70 years old. How possible?
Wow.
Only poor people pay bills. Only poor people go to jail. And so I sent you to watch these things to have awareness, because you show up on these jobs every day and you give your life. But you have to protect yourself, okay, whilst you were there. Because some of these companies are corrupt. And when you see these types of things going on, you leave, you don't associate yourself with them, you don't fight, and this is why, you need at least 3 to 5 revenue streams. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. You can't be dependent on this 9 to 5 job, especially if you work like in the offshore world, there's so many frivolous things happen.
Right.
Okay? So that's why I say, educate yourself, get on some boards, do something different, do something that you're passionate about. Make some other investments.
I am really, because I was unsure about this course, because I know I am doing a course with ACAM at the same time, but a compliance officer recommended that I do this course, and I am so happy that I listened to her, because this is just really some awesome information that I'm getting. And I didn't get this information with ACAMS.
Okay, and see, this is the difference between the ICA route and the ACAMS route. And the regulator accepts both, but the ICA route is way more extensive and you do learn a whole lot more. And it's been said that later soon they will not accept ACAMS, it will be all ICA, but that's the rumor. So don't say Miss Bullet say,
No.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't prove, but I have witnesses.
Miss Bullet say this. No, but ICA is a more detailed, more advanced route, and you do get a whole lot more information.
Like I think I know I can speak to it that I got more. It's more detailed to specific to the Caribbean.
Yeah, and yeah, it's more relevant to the Bahamas.
And with ACAMS, it's more to the BSA and the Patriot Act, US laws and regulations.
Yeah, because
that's the difference.
ICA is UK and ACAMS is US, and so they load you down with lots of US rules and regulations. I'm a Bahamian, so I push in this Bahamian agenda. The same time we in this class, I trying to help develop some future leaders who can help our country. So
I have the whole thing is and Ms. Fuller is absolutely right, but in my case, I always say to myself, anytime I'm doing any type of certification or degree, I'm gonna be doing it based on its accreditation and if I can use it anywhere I go in the world. So that's how I made my decision, and I know I have my daughter, her little family there, so I don't know in the future if I'll be migrating. So that's how I made my decision.
Okay, that's fine, and like I say, it's good to have 2 points of view, and one will get it done, but if you want to delve deep, and like I said, because you will find that it's UK based, but when we get to ICA, I completely, when they talk about all the UK laws, I completely say from Bahamian law, because right now you are not working in a UK industry, so you need to know what happens in the Bahamas. Now, some people teach the UK, but I don't. I personally go and do research and say, okay, this is what we do in the Bahamas, and this is how it's done. Okay? Yeah, so work on your 5 revenue streams so you can keep your self above the water. Right now, the pandemic has taught me that one has to be virtual or online, and the next one has to be essential. So think about that. A lot of times we have a problem with immigrants, but there are a lot we can learn from them. You go all the way back to the Bible. The Bible says no man will be king in his country. So as you see, on food store sides, the Chinese have it unlocked, and then the Caribbean, on the car lot side, the Africans have the car lots, and we mad at them because of that. But the Bible states that. But in everywhere in the world you go, there's a little China, there's an African group, there's even in like Cuba and communist countries, and there's nowhere in the world that there's a little Bahamas or little Bahamians or that is like world renowned. And so we need to look at them and say, how do they do it? How do they go into other countries and and earn or have a piece of the pie, you know. We have to do away with this black crab syndrome thing and try to work together and help each other grow and build our networks. The Chinese, they live on 20% and they save 80. And I normally encourage my classes, I said, you know, try that. 1 week, if you work 4 weeks, 4 paychecks, one of those paychecks, you live on 20% and you save 80 and see what happens. And then they come together when they buy, you know, when you buy in numbers, you get a discount and then you could sell at a discounted rate. And where's everybody going? Where there's the lowest price, especially when the world is in a pandemic. And so they buy a trailer load of a 40-foot container of bread and they distribute bread to all the locations. They buy a trailer load of milk and they distribute it. And so here they can sell it at a cheaper rate. And so that's strengthening numbers, and that's the importance of building your network. So let's, with all these situations, there's so much negativity in the world. Let's try and see what is best, how we can help ourselves, what we can do for our own country, because everybody around the world trying to, you know, save their country. We have to save ours. We have to save ours, okay? So network, get to know people, and like I say, 10 Toastmasters. I know 1 or 2 persons asked me for an invite. I have gone to my other class and, you know, asked them to send an invite. So for the person who asked me an invite, I will send that. But all these things are online. Go there, introduce yourself, and meet like-minded people, and you know, get involved in these forums to try sustain our country and so we don't go under. So, you know, we have to think about a new industry, and so a lot of help is needed out there, and only us can do it, because as you can see, these money services businesses, they're failed. Every day they're sending the money out of the country to support their own country or their families back home. That's why they come here, for a better life. So the same better life that they come for, let's try and live that whilst we are here. Okay, so there's a lot to be done and a lot we can do. Okay, and if each of us, like I say, make a contribution, you know, we'll have a better country.
Amen.
Okay, okay, great. Any other questions or concerns?
Oh, when are we gonna get our scores for our assignments?
Okay, so you normally get it 1 week after you would have submitted. So the submission date would have been Friday, so you would get it next week Friday. Okay. And then the people who would submit today, you would also get it next week Friday.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Bullock.
Yeah.
On page 30 for the IMS process and timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You see it?
Yeah.
Is it something we need to look at?
No, again, that was just an example of that they put in the book, because at the time when they first wrote it, the IMF was actually in here, and so they put the process that they, you know, when they come in to do their review, how it works. So that was just an example to give you, give you an idea of how it works. They came in 2018.
Okay.
Okay, so Ms. Bullard, question, we still having class this Thursday, right?
So it would have been the next week Thursday. No, it would have been the week of the 6th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
but you know, we spoke to the church, because I actually have a funeral off island to attend, and we spoke to the church, and it might have to go to the 13th. So I'll get back to you to find. I should have a date by the 13th, and I will finalize it if that's okay. And I don't want to, if it's going to mix us up too much, I would just stick with the Saturdays. But I don't think at this time it's going to be the 6th anymore. It may be the 13th.
Okay.
Okay, but I'll let you for sure. I will confirm next week for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody is typing. 1 second. Let me just make sure I get all the questions. But I'm very encouraged, and continue to read, and let me know how else I can assist if you need more information. But get to know the persons in the class and work together and study together. And I trust me, it's going to be beneficial. And even when you attend to get the 5%, attend together so you're comfortable, you know?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Sierra. Yes, the homework is one essay you select out of the 4. Okay, Sierra, is that good? Okay, perhaps she can't hear me. Okay. Yes. Just select one. Anything else before we leave? Okay, nothing else. Okay, so just to be clear, next week we will discuss AML CTF programs and customer due diligence, which basically is the same. It talks about the statutory requirements. There are 5 statutory requirements. So take a read so you would know what they are. And statutory means that they are required by law. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so have a productive week and you all take care, and we'll do this again next week, Saturday.
Same to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bullen.
Thank you. Bye, Ms.
Okay. Take care. Thank you.
I'll have a good weekend.
And have an awesome weekend.
You too.
Okay, thanks.
Está de prisa,